TownHall Heroes. Hello, everyone, and welcome to TownHall Heroes, episode number 128. I am Solid Jake. This week we've got Dunk Train, Iacona, and Chew8, the man himself, joining us here to talk about pretty much the patch that just hit today, holiday festivities, HGC 2017, which we've got all of our teams for North America qualified for. But before we get into all of that, Dunkus, what is good, man?
Oh, you know what's good, Jake? These Ragnaros. Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
Did you open them? Oh my goodness, he's eating them.
Oh God. Sit on your beard.
Ragnaros, boys. I got some nice molten lead, molten iron in my beard. That'll really help the growth, you know.
Don't forget the Corehound leather.
No, definitely gotta get the Corehound leather in there.
That's the good stuff.
Yeah. That's all that's going on in my life at this point. Just Ragnaros and Ragnaros, boys.
Good stuff. Iacona, it's been a very long time since you were last on the show. Welcome back. What's new?
Thanks for having me back. Just basically still been playing Heroes of the Storm, obviously, and just qualified last weekend for the HGC for next year. So it's really pumped, really excited, looking forward to that.
Well, congrats on that once again, man. We'll talk about that more very soon. Chew8 also qualified for HGC 2017. And Chew, since this is your first time on the show, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, hello guys. My name is Chew8. I am currently streaming for myself on Twitch and streaming mainly Heroes of the Storm. But I used to play a lot of competitive games in the past for games like Heroes of New Earth, Dota, League of Legends. But now I kind of just settled down and just doing a full-time streaming. And just recently I qualified for HGC. And unfortunately, I won't be so casual anymore in my streaming because of some of the schedules involved with HGC. But fortunately, though, that prize money, though, and that HGC being completely online was a really, really big perk for me, and I'm very happy to be qualified for that.
Well, congrats. We're going to talk a lot more about HGC and basically the benefits, what we think about the North American community, the state, the meta, everything, and those last qualifiers that we had this past weekend in the middle of our show. But we're actually going to open up with the patch that just hit today. So Ragnaros, as Dunk was just eating some of his Ragnaros, did in fact go live, as well as many big changes. And I just want to open up because I sat down and started tinkering with some of the older warriors that have been around for a while, Diablo notably. What are your guys' immediate reactions to the hero? Because there's a lot of rumblings on Twitter that the hero might be too strong. Is he going to get the nerf bat right away? Dunk, have you experimented with the new Diablo at all?
Yeah, I played one game of new Diablo, and I agree. For some reason, it feels to me like Diablo always is like this teeter-totter where like he's suddenly insane, and then he goes back to being like pretty much useless, and then back to being insane. Like
Feels bad,
historically, it really Diablo is kind of unique in that manner. Like he's one of the heroes that's a warrior that tends to have like periods where he's like the number one pick, and then he'll just go completely out of favor. Unlike a lot of the other ones that are more like stable, I guess.
That's fair. Chew, how do you feel about Diablo?
Actually, I've only seen the new Diablo maybe once, maybe twice while I was playing PTR. So I don't really have too much to comment, but I'm really excited to try it out myself and see it in the Hero League tonight.
Oh, now Kona, I know you were focused on the qualifiers as well, not playing a ton of the PTR. So have you at least read all of his updates here on the patch notes?
Yeah, I've read all the patch notes, and the main thing, at least for me, is that there's going to be more variety, since for a long time there were only a handful of tanks that were kind of seeing a lot of competitive play. So it's nice that we see some of these tanks that haven't been seeing play in a while that get some reworks to hopefully boost them into the competitive scene and hopefully see some more play. So I'm really looking forward to that.
I played probably 5 games as Diablo, just back to back to get a feel for him earlier today. And I have to say, like, he actually has flexibility, like you're just saying. I think when it comes to his talents that he has, like in the especially level 1, the 5 seconds of the 25% resistance is huge, versus the 2 seconds. But having it stock is really nice because it feels like when you dive as Diablo, you're not just an immediate target since you do have that resistance. But also, I'll tell you, if you build in so that you have all the health regen, basically, I think it's level 1 and level 7, you can get health regen talents, and you have max soul stones. And like when you pick up globes and stuff, I think it's like between globes and just health regen static, it's insane. You feel kind of like Muradin in some fights. Like when you win like the immortal or you win something and you pick up the globe, you're at full health, full mana. So he's a really interesting hero. I have no idea how good he's gonna be, and he felt like a complete bully in the actual quick match games I played, but we'll see at the pro level. Obviously, a hero to keep our eyes on. Diablo, one of the heroes that got the big rework in this patch. Artanis also got a lot of love. Have you guys played him?
I haven't played any games of him. I played against. There's pretty much been one Ragnaros, one Artanis in every game I played today, on each team, and then like a Diablo once. So I don't know. Artanis seems okay. I don't think it's enough of a change to him to bring him to competitive, but I think he has been and still will continue to be good for like quick match and hero league.
Chew? Any thoughts on Artanis?
Yes, I think I have way more games with Artanis. I didn't really play him myself, but I've been seeing a lot of him in PTR games that I played in the past, and I think the new dash into the swap is crazy range.
Yeah.
And I think that is a lot of potential once players get really used to it and they get the hang of it and they get good with it. I think it's gonna bring a pretty interesting dynamic where now you have to watch out for Artanis initiating, and I don't know, may even see some competitive play because of that.
I'll say there's like a lot of different plays you can make with it, just from experimentation. Like there are plays where you can just use that as a hard engage because since it'll basically end your Q, so you can utilize your Q as like an engage almost rather than just trying to pull that target away. You're just staying on top of them, which is a really nice option to have. And then of course you just pop W and then you're in their face doing all that damage and you can body block. Also flopping sides with them, you're setting yourself up to be able to body block. But then if you time it as your animation is retreating, you will pull them in extreme distance. So there's like definitely some complexity there. And I think that gives it a ton of room for playmaking. I mean, Kona, let's just like think of some synergies that could exist with like a lot of different heroes. Like there's definitely some big ones it supports for sure.
Yeah, so it's definitely like pretty interesting. You have swaps, so you can like put down roots or something like that on Malfurion. If you're really good at or like believe, you can throw like a Tron stun out and try to line that up with Artanis swap. Yeah, but I don't like the one thing is if you like swap yourself, so like you like because you're probably gonna be swapping a frontliner, so you put them in the middle of your team, and then you're putting yourself into the middle of the enemy's team. So it's like basically for me, it's like oh crap, I gotta like run all the way over, throw all my support and spells, and keep Artanis alive for as long as possible while he's trying to like 1v4. So it puts me in a little worrisome state when I see an Artanis just go and dive in like that. So. But I think it does allow for a lot of playmaking ability, which is really good for heroes. I think having high skill abilities or like combos.
Yeah, it's really important. I think he's still going to be weak in 5v5s, but he's insane in skirmishes right now. And a lot of people are overlooking the tweak to his W dash to go from edge of collision as opposed to trying to hit the center of the opponent, which makes it a lot more usable against like fat targets like Gazmodan or like Muradin, etc., that sort of stuff. Sergeant Hammer.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't realize I mean, that honestly, it feels just more responsive, but that's
way more responsive. Yeah.
And it just feels cleaner. And obviously, setting yourself up for those body blocks, in optimal positioning a lot of times, that's really nice. Huh, cool. Well, those are two of the heroes that I think are probably some of the more prominent changes. Ragnaros, I think it's still pretty early to make a strong assessment. But since Kona and Chew8, since you guys are here, we'll start with you, Kona. Where do you think this hero will land? I mean, just straight out of the gates, do you think he'll be played in competitive?
So I was messing around with him back on the BlizzCon build, and I thought that he was like really strong. I think they've done some changes to him since then, but I feel like it's going to be hard to kind of balance him in a sense. I feel like he's either going to be like really, really strong or like just complete garbage. So like it's going to be like almost like what you were saying before, Dunk, with like Diablo, where it's going to be it's like kind of extreme. So I think that he is like probably going to be really strong right now or like horrible. Like he might be like niche played on certain maps just because of his one of the heroic, the lava wave is like really strong in like Braxis, for example. So like I think you'll see some niche play on that. But for outside of seeing play on only certain maps, I think it's going to be hit or miss.
28, how do you feel?
Actually, I feel very similar. I think he's gonna be a lot of hit or miss, and it's gonna be very niche, just like how Avatar is. So I do think that he may see some competitive play, and he's gonna be playable in Hero League and certainly in quick matches, especially in a lower level league where you're just gonna get tons of value out of the Lava Wave, which I believe is his strongest spell, strongest ultimate. But he also has a lot of he also brings a lot of utility that once the player gets really used to, I think it can be really crazy. Like his D, for example, it's I don't think it's just for defending. You can definitely use it offensively. You can use it to contest certain objectives because of your crazy range that you have. And today I just found out that you can use Sulfurous Smash with the same range as your other spells when you're in your D form, when you're in the true Ragnaros form. And I found that to be really crazy utility.
It's same with Lava Wave. You can also use that when you're in Molten Core form. And like I'll tell you, if you summon it while in the Molten Core and you use the big cleave and hit everyone as a lava wave is coming in, it feels so good, but so bad to be on the receiving end.
That's my favorite.
I feel like Lava Wave is like obviously the powerful ability, but is anyone else like frustrated with just how much damage it can do to heroes? Like if you just happen to get caught in it for like 1 or 2 extra ticks, it's like I feel like it's kind of an unreasonable amount of damage to have on an ability that's like, yeah, kind of team fighting and kind of you have to predict if you're going to be team fighting in that lane or whatever, but it's more supposed to be map control and it feels like you just win team fights in like quick match and stuff. Feels like you just win team fights if they mess up and accidentally fight in a lane. I don't really like that aspect of it.
Yeah, I actually do feel that it's a little too extreme. And whenever you have something that is extreme, it's going to be really tough to balance between different levels of gameplay. So it's going to be really easy to play around. Well, a lot more easy to play around in higher level gameplay, such as competitive or high level Hero League, if such thing exists. And and when you're playing really nupsy game like a quick match or low level Hero League games, it's just going to just demolish straight up just by being a single ultimate.
Yeah, that was my impression.
I mean, there's
like I get what you're.
Go ahead, Kona.
I get what you're saying that it's like pretty punishing, in a sense, or not very forgiving. But I think like there's like a bigger issue, like just in low MMR play, like Asmod, like split push Asmodem is just like just wrecks people and they don't know how to deal with it. So I think it's like it's just something that in essence, at least for high level play, can be easily countered or played around, but at low level or like lower MMR play that people struggle with. So I think it's more just maybe a lack of like knowledge, and if maybe if it's played more competitive play, people can figure out how to like counter it more, or maybe people want to like talk about it. But I think one like it only has an effect just because people don't know how to actually play against it, or like they don't really know how to respond to it in essence. So I feel like even in low level play, it can be detrimental, but I think if players actually like kind of go out and read or like watch like pro games or watch streamers and stuff like that, they can learn a lot of knowledge of how to properly deal with that.
Agreed.
Yeah, and they'll like you're right for sure. I think maybe in probably 2 weeks, like even the low level players will be like much better at playing against it. Like right now, nobody pays attention to the indicator on the minimap for where the wave is going and like how much progress it has and stuff like that. So it's just something where people will have to learn, like, you don't fight in the lane against a lava wave Ragnaros. Like, you have to not do that. So I guess there's enough room for counterplay, I suppose.
You know, on the PTR, I didn't even notice like the audible cue, but there totally is an audio cue as well. It sounds kind of like doom is coming, I guess is the best way to explain it. But I think people are starting to pick up, even from the games now versus my games in the PTR. I felt that people were a little bit more aware of it. Although, you know, the random Abathur that's sitting in bottom lane that just gets one shot by it, you know, there was a game where he struggled. So Abathurs beware, because you will get bodied by one tick basically from that lava wave. Cool. Well, overall, I think we talked about this a bit last week in terms of style for Ragnaros. I mean, you know, there's a lot of potential with the Q build with the Hand of Sulfuris for just, you know, be a bit of blow up, but with Ragnaros' kit, it feels hard to actually play melee. Like, it feels like you're just kind of hiding behind everything else, throwing out your E's on allies and minions to utilize it for them more often than, or retreating with it, rarely using it offensively. And your W is your primary build. But I'm curious if you guys have any thoughts as to how you think Ragnaros will be optimally built. Start with you, Chu.
Actually, I've tested out so many different builds on this guy since I was really interested in kind of making him work. And there is this build that I really like so far, and that is a little bit of a hybrid. So I've tried a lot of different ones, building all about Q, building all about your W, and building all into your E. I've tried all three, but I didn't really like any of them. But the one that I really enjoyed was a little bit of hybrid where you're picking up some of the W talents, like the level 1 where you stack it up, and then once it's stacked, you change the direction. And then I will buff that up by using the level 7 talent, the Molten Power, to make it stronger. After hitting multiple heroes with it, then your next W is gonna do extra damage. And then later on, getting the level 16 talent, the Meteor Bomb, where you can do the explosion damage at the tip of it. And I think that those three talents have really good synergy together. And then for the rest, I will take mostly things like Slow Burn. The 40% slow, I think, brings out a lot of utility. Like you said, I don't think you're supposed to be using your E on yourself too much, because it's going to put you into a death range way too often than you should. So you probably want to use that on another melee character, probably something like a tank unit. And at level 13, I think there's a little bit of flexibility there. But for the most part, if you're not taking Resilient Flame, and if the enemy team doesn't have a lot of stuns, then you probably just want to take the Temper Flame. But I don't really like level 13 talents that much. And I think that's where kind of Blizzard can use some magic in the future to make some changes, like bringing back the Submerge into level 13 talent again, and then tweaking some of the other talents so that they're equally as useful as Submerge, so that Ragnaros isn't just all about his ultimates and his Ds, which I feel is kind of how he is right now.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think Blast Wave right now feels kind of like, not a blank ability, but it's like, it's not as impactful as I want it to be. That's his E. Like, it just feels like you kind of throw it on your tank all the time or whatever, and it's like not that exciting. And I feel like that's because his heroics and trait are so powerful. But I agree with Chu's build. I think the 1, 7, and 16 Meteor talents have like way too much synergy to give up, and it's really powerful. I like that build. And then I agree, you don't need to, you can do whatever you want at 4 and 13.
Kona, any comments?
He doesn't have any abilities that heal your teammates, so it's gonna be hard to kind of build him as a support.
Wait,
so
at
I don't think my
13
team's gonna let him.
At 13, does the Tempered Flame give the shield to the person you put Blast Wave on, or to yourself?
That's a good question.
Because I played a game of Tempered Flame and I tried to look for it, but I couldn't pay attention because I was casting on Johanna a lot, and she'd always like Iron Skin, and I got angry because I couldn't know if my talent was working or not. But still, you can shield your ally, maybe.
Maybe. So I don't know. I'll go talk to my team about that one. Let me see if I can get some play.
I'm gonna test it out really quick. Get in their
to
mouth.
yourself.
Get in their mouth.
You can put it on a minion. You can actually blast wave a creep, which is something that's kind of interesting.
I forgot you can do that.
But if they die, it doesn't go off.
Rip.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay, shielding yourself,
Shielding
and it's not
myself.
very much.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's unimpactful.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, it's good to know. Well, okay. Well, Ragnaros, obviously, we're gonna have to see where he lands. Some maps likely to be very prominent just because that Zerg wave is so powerful. Other maps may never see him. Excited to play him myself, regardless. Looking through the patch, I don't know that there's anything else that's really big to talk about other than Bloodlust. And obviously, this is something that I'm like obsessed with. If you guys don't know that I'm obsessed with Bloodlust, I literally named a tournament Bloodlust. That's how much I like it. And I got a bunch of tweets, like Collusion tweeted at me. He's like, by the way, Solid Jake, Bloodlust is 100% a thing. APM followed up saying he agrees and he backs it up. Kona, I know you said you haven't played the PTR much, but I mean, Dunk former pro support as well. Like, how you guys feeling about this? Like, you think it's a good change to have some kind of like aggro support options?
I think it's going to be viable, but I think it's only going to be viable in the dual support situation where you have another support making up for the lack of primary target healing. Like right now we're seeing a lot of Tassadar, Resident Sleeper, Zarya, and Tyrael as like the auxiliary supports to make up for the weaker primary support. And I think in that situation, Bloodlust can be good. You just have to be careful not to pick it against an insane disengage like Void Prison or Gust, basically. Or even Earthquake is too much to try and engage into. So if you're going to play it in Hero League, make sure you pick it when you have another auxiliary support and when you're not playing into one of those huge disengage heroics.
So at least for me, like on paper, Bloodlust like seems playable, but it's more draft dependent. Versus like Ancestral Hero, you can basically pick any comp and pick Ancestral Hero and you won't go wrong. So,
Yeah.
but like obviously, like it's like kind of makes sense, but like obviously you need to have people that benefit from Bloodlust. But like right now, at least like Vala is seeing insane play, so like it'd be like basically like I don't know, like Tassadar basically does the same thing with his lifesteal like shields, but you can see some play with that. But I don't know, like me personally, I still like Ancestral Heal more. Like even if Bloodlust is viable in some comps, I don't know, like I always like even back when Bloodlust was like played back in early alpha when the Rhaegar first came out, I started running Ancestral Hero, liked it a lot more, and I don't know, like I just not really a big fan of it because it just feels, at least to me, a little unimpactful. So like you hit R and then now like you go run at them and attack them. Like it just seems like it's nothing, like I'm not like stunning them, and I'm not doing some insane damage, I'm not doing some crazy animation. I just make everyone bigger and we all like, I guess it's kind of cool in its own fact that you just like just run at people. But I'm always been a big fan of Ancestral Heal, so I still really like that heroic. But I think Bloodlust will definitely see some play. It is just it's not going to be like you can pick Bloodlust always. I think there's still going to be scenarios where you can lean either way.
I mean, I think that's a good thing overall.
Yeah.
Having flexibility, having that, question when the draft happens, is this going to be a Bloodlust composition, having the option. Chew, have you played with this in the PTR?
Not on PTR, but I think this change, I think there used to be one patch where it was kind of like this, where all effective allies now heal for whatever percentage of basic attack damage dealt. There was a patch where it was applied as a bug.
Yeah.
And I used to play a lot of Rhaegar back then. And this is pretty much how I play my supports anyways. I try to build as many damage talents as possible. And whenever I would play Rhaegar, I would most of the time I would either go the Lightning build or the Dogi build, as I would like to call it. So specking into all the D talents and then using the Bloodlust. And now it's just going to make me stronger. So this is pretty exciting for me still. And I think there's going to be really cool combos now that that Thrall's Earthquake is really popular.
Yeah.
I think you can do something insane like Thrall, Raynor with Rhaegar, and then you just pop in something like a Zarya or, like you said, auxiliary supports like Tyrael, things like Tassadar, Tyrande, all these can work. And I think there's really good competitive viability here too, just not just Hero League.
Yeah, dude, attack damage Tyrande build plus Bloodlust Rhaegar.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy,
Kona,
that'd be sweet.
Who do you live with?
Biggie.
I did not
You
know
just
that.
like
I
randomly
thought
popped
that
in.
was Big E, but like I didn't want to actually be wrong and sound like some kind of fool. That's awesome. Well, Big Impact just peeking on in. We'll have to rope him in sometime. All right. Obviously, that's going to be really cool to see if that does end up having an impact on the game. And I look at heroes like Artanis and Diablo. Who knows? Apocalypse. You never know if that could end up being another thing that helps Bloodlust make its way in. Haunted Mines enters the game, but do you guys know if it's in the map pool?
For a quick match, I didn't see it, but I don't know.
Because I played like 6 games or 7 games or so, and I did not play it, but I'm terrified of having to play it.
I'm already terrified of the current map pool. You have like Warhead, Garden, DOE. It's just like, please no more. I just want the standard maps.
Because it doesn't specify, it just says Battleground Rework Haunted Mines, but it doesn't say whether or not it's actually in the map pool.
I would guess if it was in the map pool, they would have said it's in the map pool since it'd be coming back, but you never know.
Yeah, but it was never like disabled from customs or anything, right?
No, it was never disabled in customs, but they said when they took it out of the map pool itself.
It was going to be reworked. Yeah. I don't know. And I know you guys didn't play a ton of the PTR. I mean, Chu, you probably played a bit of Haunted Mines as well. I personally found it to be just as snowbally as it always ever was, just with more options for like how to get in and out of the mines.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way. Where, I mean, it's a little bit less linear. It's a little bit less, I guess, like just pick Sylvanas and Tassara and you just win the game. I think there's more strategy to it, but it'll still be just as snowbally, and probably it'll be very similar to Braxis in terms of the average game length, or even shorter than that. But what I liked about the new Haunted Mines is that I think it's just simply put, I think it's going to be more fun than what it used to be.
I can agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Well, we can move on and talk about HGC. We're about halfway through our show today. And before we transition to HGC, I just want to go ahead and plug Gladius. You'll see it's above us right here in the actual stream. And it's a 3v3 ARAM tournament we're actually doing this Friday. It's going to be here on this channel, completely free to enter, fun exhibition event. 3 versus 3, anyone can sign up. So at this point in time, we have, let me just pull this up here. You can go to arcane8.com and you can find the first post there to learn more about it, or you can just type !Gladius in chat on Twitch. Right now, we've got 21 teams registered, and there's, like Glaurung is playing with Cattle. I believe there's a few other notable teams like Battery is going to be playing in one of the squads with Dark Chimera and Frozen X. So this is open to everyone. If you guys have nothing to do Friday afternoon, it's like 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. So it's pretty much the same time TownHall starts. That's going to be a lot of fun. I hope to see a lot of teams sign up there. And as I swap over really quick, I will pull up the donation page. We're also crowdfunding it just to give the team something to work towards. Again, this is a fun exhibition deal for the community, but we've actually managed to raise $501 so far for the prizing. You can actually add $1 for free, courteous of Matcherino. If you go to the Matcherino page, you just use the code Gladius, very simple, and you will add $1 for free. And thank you to all of our donators who have contributed so far. There's also some things you can buy, like headphones, and if you want to get into streaming or casting, this is a good mic that a lot of us use. And there's also monitors and stuff. If you buy these things, it actually benefits the prize pool as well. Just another option for those looking to get into it. But that's going to be a fun, joyous festivity to do towards the end of the year. Let's transition and talk about HGC, starting with the qualifiers, which were last week. I mean, obviously, we've got DTS, we've got Chu 8 Mahat Doge, the two teams, or Dogi, excuse me, Chu, I'm sorry. I mispronounced it for like all the qualifiers. All the hot Dogi fans, they hate me now because I said Doge so many times. But you guys earned your spots into HGC. Your teams have guaranteed themselves at least $50,000, possibly $100,000, and of course, more on top of that. Let's go to Chu, who used to be a pro Han player. You haven't been pro in Heroes. You've just been a full-time streamer this whole time. Number one, number two streamer in the entire community. but now you're transitioning into more of the pro scene as a player. And what is that like for you?
It's definitely an interesting spot to be in, because when I first made the decision to go full-time streaming, it was mostly because of me wanting more stability, me wanting more financial stability. And since there was a time when I was suffering to pay the rent, and now I don't have to go through that anymore. I'm really thankful for that. But since now I'm in a much better spot, if I do really want to, then I could really commit my time into playing competitive. But um, to be honest, though, I don't think I want to go down the road. I don't think I want to make a full commitment into playing competitively. Rather, I would just like to be more of a casual pro, and I would be playing, but not really, putting in the hours that's necessary to be competing for the number one spot. But this kind of comment is something that could trigger some competitive players out there. I know for sure, because I have been one. I have been a full-time competitive player in the past,
Right.
for games like Dota and Han, and I can understand that. But at the same time, I don't know if I can give up my full-time streaming career. Well, I don't necessarily have to give it up, but I'll have to allocate my times differently. And it just means that I'll be having less time to stream. I'll be having less free time for myself to do any other non-gaming stuff. And I don't think that's, necessarily worth it for me.
Right.
So
you're what you're trying to say is basically you're trying to find the right balance between scrimming with the team versus actually keeping up the streaming schedule, keeping up the fan base, and maintaining the presence that you've worked really hard to build.
Exactly.
And I think
And
everyone should respect that.
the only way I feel like I can do that is if I stream minimum, the bare minimum amount to just keep our team floating. But that is a little bit, selfish. That's something that I have to talk with my team and then try to talk it out and see what we can agree on.
I wonder if, like, this community, and I know this is like a question that kind of goes out to all the teams, if there would be teams willing to open scrim blocks up to being streamed. Because, like, I know everyone's very, hush hush when it comes to their strategies, and they want to hide their scrims, and they don't want that information being shared, and that makes perfect sense. But at the same time, by making scrim blocks like a viewable experience, even if those things were recorded and then released on YouTube like later, I think that's really valuable kind of information for players to learn how to communicate better, how to make calls, how to make those judgment kind of experiences, because it's not that common of a resource that's accessible to people. And I mean, Kona, let's just kind of throw you in on this. How would you feel about that kind of thing? I mean, Choose obviously got the streaming thing going, but would DTS ever be open to streaming their scrims?
We actually did. We streamed one block like a month ago, I think, against Vox Nihili. But in general, it's not necessarily that like we're for or against it. It's just like kind of been like an unspoken rule, I guess, that you don't stream scrims, you don't post like if you like, some people have posted like clips or like the VODs like after the fact, but it's usually like you'll wait till after a big tournament, talk to the team, get their permission. Like you kind of got to go through a lot of hoops and hurdles to kind of do that, which is like understandable in a sense, because everyone wants to, like, if they're working on things, you don't want to like reveal to the whole world or like give strats out. But in general, I think it's probably what honestly like the Twitch might need, or like what the community needs, is this content, because a lot of pro players, and like myself included, like we don't really stream right now. We've been focusing a lot on like scrimming, maybe playing a little bit of Hero League on the side or something like that. But in general, like there's not much content being produced from us, and like scrims are a thing that we do every day, and it would be pretty simple to go and stream it. In essence, you just press the button and then you like, I guess, mute during draft or something to like see how your discussion. But it's more just like if the teams are kind of okay with it, is like kind of what it all comes down to. I know a long time ago, back in like beta, or no, maybe a little bit after beta, Cloud9 I think used to stream a lot of, like Zuna I think was, maybe Kenmai, one of the, like someone on Cloud9 used to stream a lot of their scrims, and that was their thing, was to do that. But then that kind of all went away, and
Right.
no one's really been streaming scrims since then.
Well, that's why I bring it up, because I used to watch those Zuna scrims. Like, whenever I could, that was an amazing thing. Like, as a caster, I could easily ask and just be like, hey, I want to sit in and watch it. But I think a lot of the community as a whole would benefit. And I think our player base, like, in this community, could actually level up by having that kind of content to consume, because I'm sure they learn tons and tons and tons just watching you, Chew, right? You've got a huge fan base, you can educate well, but it's a different experience when you actually watch a scrim. It's a different level of play, one, and it's a different kind of communication that's happening. And I don't know, I just want to encourage you guys and everyone in HGC, North America, Europe, to consider that. Maybe not right before like a big LAN. Sure, cut those scrims, cut those kind of streams off. But like in the regular season, if you're just having a scrim block with a team, you know you're not playing for 3 or 4 weeks, go ahead, show it. I think that's a cool resource we could have, and I would love it myself. But okay, well, I mean, Chona, let's just talk about you. I mean, you obviously, like, you had to go into the last qualifier that had to have been pretty scary, going to qualifier number 3, having been a prominent player in the pro scene for a long time. But now that you've earned this spot, how do you feel about this new format going into the new year and earning that for DTS?
I honestly really like the format. It's like being online, so like there's less like LAN tournaments and less travel, so like that is bad in that aspect. But it's also good in some other aspects. So like we're not traveling all the time, which means that we actually have more time to practice. We have also more time to like produce content. Because I know in the past, like I've tried streaming and we would have tournaments we'd be going to every like 2 months, and we'd be gone for like 2 weeks at a time. So it's like really hard when you're constantly up and about, like going everywhere, traveling. So it's like it's kind of hard to do things like that. So like having a purely online format will allow people to I feel make more content for the scene, because we have a lot more time traveling, and also it brings a lot more like stability that there's like the guaranteed prize that's 50K I think for a split,
Right.
that's guaranteed for each team, which is really good because it allows people to invest more time also into this. So like in the past, I've known people have had jobs that they try to work harder full time while also playing and traveling, and it puts a lot of strain on people to do
Right.
that. And a lot of people ended up quitting their jobs to focus more on this. So it would be really nice to have more income, so we can basically, for the people that are still maybe like working the jobs or like kind of on the fence, this allows them to commit and basically go full time into this and put all their effort into the Heroes of the Storm gaming community. So I'm really liking that format in that sense, that it allows, like, so basically we have the ability to focus 100% on the game, and we also have the time to do so now as well, because we're getting extra money, or like getting salaried basically from Blizzard on top of whatever we might win,
Yeah.
or if we're people contracted to organizations.
You got that fat guaranteed loot. You got potential to win money next year. It's a nice format where everybody wins at least something, rather than being 8th place team all the time and walking home with $100 after 2 weeks of work. That probably feels terrible, or more than 2 weeks of work with the whole build up. I mean, I've been there. I used to be a competitive Melee player, and I used to spend lots of money to lose a lot, and feels bad, man. But Dunk, I mean, how you feeling about the top 8 teams? Are there any surprises for you? Are you surprised that like any teams didn't make it, or any team made it over another team? And don't be afraid to shit on people. Go in, go hard. I want the unfiltered Dunk train.
Oh no.
It's hard to say that anything could have been surprising coming out of the qualifiers in NA. Like, as far as I was concerned, looking at the rosters and who was playing, like the last 2 qualifiers were basically coin flips. Once you got to probably not top 8, but like top maybe 4 or 6 teams in each, it felt like each match was coin flip basically, in terms of there were no hard favorites, it felt like. So I wouldn't say I was surprised by anything. I mean, it was just, I don't know. I think you're going to see in the first 2 seasons of HGC a really big gap in skill level between top 2 and then maybe top 4, and then like a big gap between top 4 and like bottom 4. So I think it's on the teams who qualified in the last 2 to actually improve a lot if they want to compete globally. And one of the things about the new format, like, you don't get to go to LANs unless you're top 2 basically.
Top 3, but
which
yeah.
is top 3. Like, you I mean, it's interesting. There's a lot on the line. Like the lands are pretty much what a lot of the competitive players lived for. So now if you're, fifth, sixth team, you don't get to go to lands, you don't get to go to regionals, you don't get to hang out with your friends in person. So hopefully, if nothing else, that is enough incentive to get people to really bring up the level of play.
Yeah, it'd be a good bit of drive. I will say, in the last qualifier, DTS and Chewit My Hot Doggy, I fixed myself there, almost said Doge. They stomped. They stomped in their actual last match. It was just 3-0 sweep. So that was actually a surprise for me. I expected those matches to actually look a little bit closer at the start of the day. Once we got there, it was clear that they were the better teams. They understood the game better. But I don't know. I feel the same way though. I'm not super surprised that I had no expectations for imported support. I know there was a little bit of hype behind them rejoining, but once I saw their games, I was just, it didn't look like there was any heart in there. They're just we're good enough to get this. We deserve it. That's the impression I got. I'm not trying to throw fire their way, but it didn't look like they worked for it. Whereas DTS, I mean, when you guys swapped and brought Hosty in, I feel like that change worked out really well for you guys. And Chewit My Hot Doggy, you guys from qualifier 1 to qualifier 3, you guys grew exponentially. In the first qualifier, I was like, there's no way these guys are making it in. I'm like, Glau and Chew, there's a lot of names on this team, but it didn't look like the drafts were cohesive enough. Chew, you like to play weird heroes. You're give me Hammer, give me Aspen, and give me Lily. But you make it work, man. You really do.
Okay, well, I do have to clarify one thing. So the way that I treat these games, these matches, or even just all the scrims that I participate in, I want to be more of a neutral factor, since I don't really have a lot of competitive HOTS experience, and I'm basically kind of just diving into it without having enough practice, having enough scrims, having enough competitive HOTS knowledge. And even though I did play here and there, just a little bit here and there, I never actually had any kind of commitment into this until just now for this tournament.
Right.
I committed about 3 to 4 weeks, and then scrimming with my team 4 hours a day, 5 days a week kind of thing, which is still not a lot compared to some of the other teams, especially the Koreans who play 10 to 12 hours a day. But still, though, that alone was a lot of time for me committing into a game which I typically only play on stream. I don't play HOTS off stream. I only play on stream. But then doing the scrims and practicing with my team, not only do I have to schedule my streams around it, I also have to commit into this game in a whole different way than I normally do. So that was a big commitment for me, and I really wanted to do well. But at the same time, I didn't want to have too strong of a voice in an area where I may be wrong a lot, and because typical when I'm streaming, I'm in control of whatever that goes on my stream. I can say whatever I want to. I can say wrong things and still get away with it. It's basically what I'm trying to say. But when it comes to a serious environment, that's not necessarily the same.
Right.
So I wanted to kind of not have a strong voice and be more of a strong follower in a sense. So I didn't have any kind of input when it comes to drafting or making any kind of macro shot calls. I would only participate in a way where I would just be voicing my own cooldowns, the targets that I'm targeting within a team fight, but that's mostly about it. So you see heroes that I play, Lily, Asmodon, Surgeon Hammer, all these kind of weird niche-y looking heroes, but I don't really force myself on those heroes at all.
Interesting. Who's your drafter then?
Clow?
It's actually mostly Glorong, yes.
Yeah.
Mostly.
He used to do it on teams before Denial. I wasn't sure if he would go back to doing it on your team. Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
I mean, it worked. You guys got the spot, and I'm looking forward to more of it. We actually went out of our way to cast as many of your games because we knew your drafts would be the most fun to watch. And I think it was true. For the most part, you guys had some crazy games. There were definitely stomps in HGC that we had over the weekends, the past few weeks. Some games were Jayhow actually literally started crying with laughter after one of the matches, and that was a moment that I don't know that I'd ever been part of, and I loved it. Like just tears of laughter, and it was all in good spirits too. So good time overall. HCC starts what, mid January? January 15 or
I believe
so?
so.
Yeah.
I don't know
Okay.
if they've given an official start date, but it's somewhere.
Dunk, the chat was asking to see the Ragnaros since you have your box on hand. I already hung mine up with all my boxes. Oh, the green screen is doing terrible things to it.
Nice. Green screen, boys. Yeah.
Buy fiber, be purged.
Yeah, the green screen is just demolishing this thing. That's not an option.
So Blizzard sent a Ragnaros cereal, which is an actual box
Yeah.
of cereal with a note and it's like the most ridiculous way to receive a in-game skin for the hero.
It was actually really awesome. Everyone was going off on Twitter about theirs, so I didn't want to be like everyone else and make a tweet about it. So I decided to bring it to Town Hall. But yeah, it was really nice of them.
We've got a nice generic question. We're actually getting close to wrapping up, but how do you guys feel that the game is more like, we've asked this question in the past, but having someone like Chu and Icona on, where do you think the game lies in terms of individual skill, team coordination, and just basically synergy between individuals? Where do you think the percentages between those three things?
I think right now it's really heavy in the favor of team synergy or like teamwork, basically. Individual skill does matter overall, but I feel like slowly as the game has gone on, it's been less of a factor since like the early days of Heroes compared to like now. It still is a factor when you like look at top teams. Like the Korean teams over there, like they have really good synergy, but they're also really individually skilled. So like it does have a factor, but I feel like teamwork or like team synergy is really important. And I think drafting is extremely important in the game right now. That they can just win or lose you the game. So I feel like those two are way bigger factors than
Oh, go ahead.
that was just.
Yeah, so Chu, when it comes to like your comms in your game, like what is the actual shot calling like? I'm curious. Like, is it just Glau talking for the most part, and people like going in with like updates as to like what's happening in their lane, or?
So the way we settled, at least up until we actually qualified for HGC. A lot of the big macro calls were made mostly just by Gloron, and then with some of the more personal inputs from everybody else. But yeah, that's in general that's how it worked. Gloron made most of the calls during the scrims and the qualifier matches.
So in the qualifiers, where would you label those different stats? Like, is it more about individual skill and like making the plays happen in the fights, or is it about the actual just responding communication and teamwork?
So from my personal experience, since I've only been able to participate in the NA scene, I think the skill. This is how I see it, because the individual skill level between the players aren't really. There's no big gaps between players at all.
He's
so
trying to
I
not
would
say NA
rate that
sucks.
very low. Yeah, percentage-wise, I would give it like 10%, something very small, simply because once again there's no gaps.
Right.
So at most that's what the difference is gonna be, about 10%. And then I would say drafting would be the vast majority, maybe like a little over 50%, and the rest of it goes to team synergy and how well you communicate with each other, which is still big, but a little bit less than drafting. So maybe 10% individual skill, 40% team synergy, and 50% drafting.
Damn. Yeah, I think that's something you've said a lot in the past, Dunk. It's all about the draft. I
Yeah,
think that's
and that breakdown between like how much of your advantage over another team comes from strategy and knowledge and understanding of the draft and the state of the game. That's part of the reason why streaming scrims is so bad. To touch back on an earlier point, if let's say 99% of the game who won and who lost was based on who played better, you could stream all your scrims because people at the top level don't get that much better from watching you play. You have to play yourself to get better, and like then you'd be producing content for people who just want to watch. But because anytime you stream a scrim, you're giving away knowledge, you're giving away your team's understanding. And even if your team's understanding isn't 100% right, knowing what someone else thinks about the game gives you a huge advantage against them. So I think that, to just go back to another point, I think that's why you see that not happen. And I mean, yeah, I agree with them.
Well, makes a lot of sense. Well, we are near the closing remarks here of the show. I'm going to give it to Chu and Kona. If there's any things in the patch or any things you want to talk about in the community, what you guys want to see, Kona.
So I guess first of all, like, thanks for having me on. As for other things, one thing that was in the patch notes I actually saw that we didn't talk about is Ariel. The crown can be seen by all allies now, and I really like that change. I've been wanting that for a while now, and I was actually really happy to. It's like not like doesn't have too high of an impact, but it's still really nice for your to kind of see that, and especially for if you're not the Ariel on your team, to know who's getting had it or like get the crown, but also good for your teammates too to kind of know who has it, so who needs to be doing the damage or whatnot to I don't know, like I just really like that it's visual to the team and allows you to I guess play around it a little bit better. So that's one thing that I really liked that we didn't talk about. I don't think I have anything else to go about. So yeah.
Awesome. Chu.
Well, I would like to thank you as well for bringing me here. And also I wanna give some shout outs to all the fans out there who've been cheering for Chuit Hot Doggy. And I think a lot of the energy that we received actually translated into us winning, and just really happy times. But anyways, about the patch, I think I like patches like these where it can potentially bring about new meta. See, I feel like a lot of the warriors have been buffed here. Not necessarily a new meta, but I think we're gonna see even more double warrior comps if the Diablo, Artanis, the Dehaka, all these heroes actually live up to my expectations, because I feel like this is a pretty decent buff for those characters. The only thing I would want from Blizzard with these kind of patches is showing a little bit more love to characters like Abathur and Murky. Not necessarily making them stronger in its current form, but make it a little bit more fun. Things like Monstrosity, for example, from Abathur. I feel like there's a lot of room for making improvements on that, making it more fun, more user-friendly, more intuitive. But maybe that's not on their priority list, which they talk about a lot. But I really, really think that one of these days, these things needs to be addressed. Murky, another one. I feel like there's a lot of different ways you can buff a Murky. Well, for Monstrosity, if I were to make a suggestion for that, and I think there's so many different ways that my suggestion doesn't really matter, but something like making your Monstrosity more of a hero rather than a monster, a minion. Because right now it's just like a big fat minion, but I think you can add really cool stuff like being able to mount, maybe giving the borrow a range and give it the put it as a default, or making it so that you don't always have to commit your symbiote onto your Monstrosity. Maybe make your movements queuable, or there's so many different ways to approach it. You kind of get the idea. But yeah. I think just want to I just want there to be more fun heroes. Maybe this is more of a personal thing, but I think a lot of the people in the community would enjoy this as well, because I play a lot of games. I played maybe somewhere between 10 to 12,000 Hero League games in Heroes of Storm, and that's probably one of the highest games played. And I love playing this game, but at the same time, I really hate it when my teammates point out my hero picks, my talent options, where I'm going these more of a fun talent choices, fun hero choices, trying to show the community what these heroes can do, what these heroes can be. some of the things that lack that could use improvements. But all in all, doing it for the show and also doing it so that there's more variety in things that I enjoy while playing this game. But at the same time, I'm criticized so heavily by my teammates and sometimes getting reported for it. It's just not a fun experience going through that. And part of the reason why is because of very slow patches around some of these things that are kind of neglected, monstrosity, murky, things like that, things of that nature.
Yeah, fair point. So maybe we'll get to it. I know a lot of friends at Blizzard do tune in from time to time here at the show. Well, thanks so much for coming on, guys. Dunk Train shout outs.
Wow, you didn't let me talk about the one thing I want to talk about from the batch?
It's implied.
Gosh.
It's implied. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is actually something I think is huge. Hero League, you can only solo queue now. There's like solo queue, and then there's duo, trio, and fives, our team league. So I'm just going to take a guess here, and I would say Chu probably likes the fact that you only solo queue in Hero League, but I would say Iacona doesn't, because Iacona likes to play supports, and that's miserable in my experience as solo queue. But I bet if Chu has an opinion on this, he'll enjoy that. Is that accurate? I want to know if you guys agree.
I think I would love the current system. I haven't tried it yet, but I have really good hopes. I have really good feeling about this one.
Okay, Iacona?
Yeah, I think that's about right. I like playing supports or sometimes tanks, and I basically rely on my duo partner to do things. But I guess maybe I can play some more assassins now or something like that. Try that out. Hopefully people don't get too mad in Hero League at me for trying to play them.
Yeah, that's just my little thing. I think it's overall good for the game, but is a concern for support mains, I would argue. But other than that, yeah, not much for my sign off.
All right, eat some more Ragnaros and keep mad at your beard. For me, I'm just going to plug Gladius once more, guys. This is 2 days away. It's a tournament series it's a brand new tournament series, the first of its kind. It's a 3v3 ARAM, all random, all mid event. Free to enter, open to everyone. You type !Gladius. You can get information, or you go to arcane8.com and you can find out more. We've had a Matcherino page for crowdfunding with $503 now in the prize pool for teams to play in, and there are some notable players in the community entering the event as well. That's happening 6 p.m. Eastern on Friday. I'll be casting that with Zoya here on this channel. Solid Jake GG should be a good time. Next Wednesday will be Town Holiday, the last show of the year. It is our 3rd annual Town Holiday where we don't really talk about heroes. We kind of hang out and have some drinks. We have notoriously gotten a little bit too drunk in the past years, and I don't think we're going to be changing the tradition. It sounds like the former hosts of the show, if you guys have been watching for a long time, Zoya and Kubi, will be joining us next week, and maybe some other guests to be determined. It's going to be an interesting night, to say the least.